The lights flickered in the operating room of the USNS Mercy. Dr. Abigail Wright didn't look up from her patient. Her hands remained steady as she carefully removed a tumor from the soldier's brain. "Power fluctuation?" she asked, her voice calm. Nurse John Simmons checked the monitors. "Everything's still working, Doctor." The ship shook. Medical tools rattled on their trays. This time, Abigail paused. "That was not normal," she said. The intercom crackled. "Medical staff, this is Captain Nelson. We are under attack. Complete all critical procedures and secure your stations." Abigail's eyes met John's across the operating table. Neither spoke the obvious question: who would attack a hospital ship? On the bridge, Captain Peter Nelson gripped the edge of his command chair. The USNS Mercy was a hospital ship, not a warship. Its white hull with red crosses was protected under every human treaty. "Status report," he ordered. Lisa Martinez, the communications officer, turned from her station. "Sir, all long-range communications are down. I was picking up strange signals just before we lost contact." "What kind of signals?" "Nothing I've ever heard before," Lisa said. "Not human." The ship rocked again. Outside the viewport, a flash of blue light streaked past. "Shields at 60%, reported the tactical officer. "Sir, those aren't colonial ships attacking us." Peter leaned forward. Through the viewport, he saw them. 3 ships, sleek and dark, with blue lights pulsing along their hulls. They moved unlike any ships he had ever seen. "Aliens," he whispered. Security Chief Olivia Bates rushed onto the bridge. "Captain, we need to evacuate the patients to the center of the ship." Peter shook his head. "We can't move some of them. Many are in critical condition." "Then we need to run," Olivia said. "We have minimal weapons. The Mercy wasn't built for combat." "Where's the rest of the fleet?" Peter asked Lisa. "Gone, sir. We're alone." Peter made his decision. "Helm, set course for the asteroid field in the Cygnus sector. Maximum speed." In the medical bay, John Simmons organized the staff as patients poured in. Burns, broken bones, and shock from the first attack. The ship's sudden acceleration knocked more people off their feet. "Move anyone who can walk to the inner rooms," John ordered. "Secure all equipment." Dr. Wright finished her surgery just as the ship jumped to high speed. She covered her patient and helped transfer him to a recovery pod. "What's happening?" she asked John. "Aliens," he replied simply. "They're attacking us." Abigail's mind raced. Why would aliens attack a hospital ship? "I don't know, but we need to prepare for more wounded." In the ship's security center, Olivia Bates examined their defenses. The Mercy had strong shields, designed to protect patients from radiation and space debris. But weapons? Almost none. "We have 2-point defense turrets," her assistant reported. "They're meant for clearing debris, not fighting." "What about the shuttles?" Olivia asked. 4 medical shuttles, minimal weapons. Olivia tapped her comm. "Captain, we can't fight back. Our best option is to hide." On the bridge, Peter watched the alien ships gaining on them. "We won't reach the asteroid field in time." Lisa suddenly straightened in her chair. "Captain, I'm receiving a transmission. I think it's from them." "Put it through." The bridge speakers filled with strange sounds, clicks, whistles, and deep rumbles that made everyone's skin crawl. "Can you translate it?" Peter asked. Lisa shook her head. "Nothing in our database matches this." The ship shook again, harder this time. "Shields at 40%. The tactical officer reported. "We can't take much more." Peter made another decision. Cut all non-essential power. Divert everything to engines and shields. Throughout the ship, lights dimmed. The temperature began to drop. In the medical bay, doctors and nurses worked by emergency lighting. The Mercy accelerated, pushing toward the safety of the asteroid field. Behind them, the 3 alien ships formed a triangle pattern. Their blue weapons charged again. "They're surrounding us," Lisa whispered. Peter Nelson stood up, a hospital ship captain facing an alien attack, not what he had trained for, but he had 300 patients and 200 staff members to protect. "Prepare for evasive maneuvers," he ordered. "We're not giving up without a fight." As the alien ships closed in, the USNS Mercy raced toward the distant asteroids. Their only hope was to hide, to survive, and somehow find a way to understand why they were being hunted. 2 weeks passed since the attack. The USNS Mercy drifted silently through the asteroid field. Their engines ran at minimal power to avoid detection. Captain Peter Nelson had ordered lights dimmed across the ship. The crew worked in hushed tones. In the science lab, Dr. Susan Green bent over a microscope. On the slide was a small piece of debris from one of the alien ships. They had collected it during their escape. "This is fascinating," Susan said. "The material is partly organic." Dr. Abigail Wright looked up from her tablet. "Organic? You mean their ships are alive?" "Not exactly alive," Susan explained, "but the metal has biological components. It's unlike anything I've seen." Abigail moved closer to examine the sample. "Could this help us understand why they attacked us?" Before Susan could answer, the lab door opened. Matthew Clark, the ship's engineer, entered carrying a modified scanner. "I did it," he said with a grin. "I've boosted our scanner range using parts from the medical imaging systems." "Will it help us detect the aliens before they find us?" Abigail asked. Matthew nodded. "And maybe more. I think we can use it to intercept their communications." On the bridge, Lisa Martinez worked with the new scanner. She had been studying the alien language since the attack. The strange clicks and whistles had patterns. Lisa was good with patterns. "I've got something," she said. Captain Nelson moved to her station. "What is it?" "A transmission between two of their ships. It's faint, but clear enough to record." Lisa played the sounds. The bridge crew listened carefully. "Can you translate any of it?" Peter asked. "Some words," Lisa replied. "They keep repeating one word that sounds like Vorathi. I think that's what they call themselves." Peter looked out at the asteroid field. "The Vorathi. At least we have a name for them now." In the medical bay, Nurse John Simmons checked on the patients. Many had recovered from their injuries during the attack. Others still needed care. "How are they doing?" Nurse Eric Williams asked as he joined John. "Better than our supplies," John replied. "We're running low on pain medication and antibiotics." Eric nodded. "We need to find a friendly port soon." "If there are any left," John said quietly. The ship's intercom activated. "Senior staff to the conference room," Captain Nelson's voice announced. In the conference room, the ship's officers gathered around a table. Security Chief Olivia Bates displayed a map of the sector. "We've detected Vorathi ships here, here, and here," she pointed. "They seem to be searching in a pattern." "Looking for us?" Peter asked. "Yes, but there's something else." Olivia looked at Susan. "Dr. Green, show them what you found." Susan displayed an image on the main screen. It showed microscopic organisms from the alien debris. "These are pathogens," she explained. "They're attacking the biological components of the Vorathi ships, and based on the samples, they're spreading." "A disease?" Abigail asked. "Their ships are sick." "Not just their ships," Susan said. "I believe the Vorathi themselves are infected. Their technology is connected to their biology." The room fell silent as everyone considered this information. "That's why they targeted us," Lisa said suddenly. "We're a hospital ship." Peter straightened in his chair. "They need medical help. They have a strange way of asking for it," Olivia said. Ryan Hughes, the communications specialist, spoke up. "I've decoded more of their language. They're desperate. I think they've lost many of their own medical ships in some kind of war. So they attacked us to capture our medical technology," Peter said. "Or our doctors," Abigail added. The ship's lights flickered. Matthew checked his tablet. "We can't hide here much longer. We need to recharge our main systems soon." Peter looked around the table. We have a choice to make. Do we keep running, or do we try to help the species that attacked us? Abigail stood up. We're doctors. We took an oath to help those in need. They fired on us, Olivia reminded her. They endangered our patients. Out of desperation, Ryan said. Not malice. Peter nodded slowly. We need more information. We need to understand exactly what we're dealing with. I can help with that, Eric said. I was a scout in the Marines before I became a nurse. I can lead a small team to gather intelligence. It's dangerous, Peter warned. So is sitting here waiting to be found, Eric replied. The captain looked at each face around the table. Then he made his decision. Prepare a shuttle, he ordered. It's time we learn more about the Vorothy. The small moon glowed blue-green against the black of space. Captain Peter Nelson had spotted it 3 days ago. It wasn't on any chart, but scans showed breathable air and no signs of intelligent life. Most importantly, no signs of the Vorothy. Take us down, Peter ordered. Slow and quiet. The USNS Mercy descended through wispy clouds. Its white hull reflected the light of the distant sun. The landing was smooth despite the ship's size. It settled on a wide plain surrounded by strange purple trees. Dr. Abigail Wright stood at a viewport, watching crew members set up equipment outside. It feels good to breathe real air again, she said as Security Chief Olivia Bates joined her. Don't get too comfortable, Olivia warned. We need to set up defenses. Outside, Daniel King, a security officer, worked with a team to place modified medical scanners around the perimeter. These will alert us if anything larger than a rabbit comes within a mile, Daniel explained to Olivia. I've linked them to the ship's systems. Good work, Olivia said. What about from above? Daniel pointed to a scanner aimed at the sky. We'll know if anything enters orbit. Inside the medical bay, Kate Powell, the lead pharmacist, examined plants collected from outside. She crushed a leaf with a mortar and pestle, then tested the juice with a chemical analyzer. This is amazing, she told Dr. Wright. These plants contain compounds similar to painkillers. We could replenish some of our supplies. Abigail smiled for the first time in weeks. Start processing them. Our patients need relief. 3 days passed. The crew established a small camp outside the ship. Patients who could walk enjoyed the fresh air and sunlight. The medical staff treated wounds that had been slow to heal in the ship's recycled air. On the 4th day, a signal appeared on the scanners. A small craft was approaching from the far side of the moon. Olivia ordered everyone back to the ship. Is it them? Captain Nelson asked on the bridge. The Vorothy? No, Lisa Martins said from communications. It's human. A mining shuttle. The crew watched as a small battered shuttle landed near the Mercy. 6 people in dirty jumpsuits emerged. Their leader, a tall man with a thick beard, approached cautiously. Captain Nelson, Dr. Wright, and Security Chief Bates met them outside. I'm Alan Morris, the bearded man said. We have a small mining operation on the other side of the moon. We spotted your ship during an ore survey. Captain Peter Nelson, USNS Mercy. This is Dr. Wright and Chief Bates. Alan's eyes widened. A hospital ship. We haven't seen another human vessel in months, not since the attack started. Peter and Abigail exchanged looks. What can you tell us about the attacks? Peter asked. Inside the ship's mess hall, Alan and his crew shared a hot meal. It was the first fresh food they'd had in weeks. The attack started about 6 months ago, Alan explained. Strange ships appearing out of nowhere, hitting colonies and outposts. We hid when they came here. Did they target specific ships? Abigail asked. Alan nodded. That's the weird thing. They seemed most interested in research stations and medical facilities. They ignored military targets sometimes. Just like us, Olivia said quietly. A loud alarm suddenly blared throughout the ship. Daniel King's voice came over the comm. Captain, we have a contact. Small ship entering orbit. Everyone rushed to the bridge. On the main screen, A sleek vessel with blue lights pulsing along its hull descended toward them. "It's a Vorathi scout," Lisa said. "Smaller than the warships that attacked us." "Battle stations," Peter ordered. "Prepare to evacuate the patients." Abigail grabbed Peter's arm. "Wait, this could be our chance." "For what?" "To talk to them. To find out what they want." Peter hesitated. "They fired on us without warning before." "That was a battle group," Abigail argued. "This is just one scout. And now we know why they might have attacked us." Lisa turned from her console. "I've improved the translation program. I can try to communicate with them." The scout ship hovered half a mile from the Mercy's position. It made no aggressive moves. "Open a channel," Peter finally said. Lisa worked her console. "Ready." Abigail stepped forward. "This is Dr. Abigail Wright of the human hospital ship Mercy. We know you are suffering. We want to talk." There was a long silence. Then the speakers crackled with a strange, halting voice. "Human healers. We observe, then decide." The scout ship moved closer, then dropped something. A small container floated gently to the ground outside. "What is it?" Peter asked. Abigail looked at the screen. "I think it's a sample. They're asking for our help." The sample glowed faintly blue in its clear container. Dr. Susan Green and Dr. Abigail Wright worked carefully, both wearing protective suits. They had brought the alien container into a sealed lab aboard the Mercy. "It's definitely biological," Susan said as she examined it under a microscope. "Cell structures similar to blood, but with significant differences." Abigail studied the readings on her tablet. "These markers indicate severe genetic damage. The cells are dying." "Just like we thought," Susan replied. "They're sick, very sick." Captain Peter Nelson watched from behind a glass window. Beside him stood Dr. Frank Torres, head of the ship's medical ethics board. "Can we help them?" Peter asked. Frank frowned. "Should we help them? They attacked us without warning." They were desperate. Abigail called out, hearing their conversation through the speakers. "Look at these cellular decay rates. This is a species-wide epidemic." In the conference room, the senior staff gathered to discuss their options. The sample from the Vorathi had been analyzed thoroughly. The results were clear. "It's a genetic disorder," Susan explained. "Something is breaking down their DNA. Based on the progression, I'd estimate they have less than a year before their entire species faces extinction. And they think we can help them." Olivia Bates asked, skeptical. "Human medical technology is different from theirs," Abigail said. "We approach healing differently. What's unsolvable to them might be treatable to us." Frank Torres stood up. "I must remind everyone that we received a partial transmission from Earth Command before we lost contact. The order was clear: non-engagement with alien forces. That was before we knew why they attacked us," Peter said. "The order still stands," Frank insisted. Nurse Heather Douglas spoke up. "We took an oath to preserve life. All life, not just human life." "They endangered our patients," Frank countered. "Out of desperation," Heather replied. "If you were dying, wouldn't you do anything to save your family?" The room fell silent. Captain Nelson looked at each face around the table. "We'll vote," he decided. "Every senior officer gets one vote. Do we help the Vorathi, or do we leave this moon and continue running?" The vote was close. 7 to help, 5 against. Captain Nelson made it official. "We will offer medical assistance with conditions. Our safety comes first." Frank Torres walked out of the room in protest. Others looked uncertain. Engineer Matthew Clark and technician Amy Rivera worked through the night. They modified the ship's communication array to send a clear message to the Vorathi. "This should boost our signal enough to reach their fleet," Matthew explained to Lisa Martinez. "We need to make it clear we want to talk, not fight." Lisa nodded. "I've refined our translation program. We should be able to communicate basic concepts." On the bridge, Paul Martinez, The ship's first contact specialist prepared the message with Captain Nelson. "We need to be careful with our wording," Paul advised. "Their language is very literal. We can't use metaphors or idioms." Peter nodded. "Keep it simple. We offer medical help in exchange for our safety. And if they refuse our terms," Olivia asked from her security station. "Then we leave," Peter said firmly. "The safety of our patients and crew comes first." Lisa's console beeped. Her face went pale. "Captain, multiple ships just emerged from hyperspace. Vorathi warships." The main screen showed 5 large vessels approaching the moon. Their blue lights pulsed faster than before. "How did they find us so quickly?" Peter asked. "The scout must have reported back," Olivia said, checking her tactical display. "They have us surrounded." "Open a channel," Peter ordered. "Let's see if they want to talk or fight." Lisa worked her console. "Channel open, sir." Peter took a deep breath. "This is Captain Peter Nelson of the USNS Mercy. We have analyzed your sample. We believe we can help treat your condition. We offer our medical assistance in exchange for our ship's safety." There was a long pause. Then the speakers crackled with a deep, resonant voice speaking halting English. "Human vessel, I am Supreme Healer Krastal. We accept your offer. Prepare to receive delegation." Peter looked at his crew. Some looked relieved, others worried. "First contact," he said quietly. "For real this time." On the medical deck, Dr. Wright and her team prepared a quarantine area. The future of both species might depend on what happened next. The shuttle bay doors of the USNS Mercy opened slowly. A small alien craft glided inside, its blue lights dimming as it landed. Security personnel lined the walls, weapons ready but not raised. Captain Peter Nelson stood with Dr. Abigail Wright and Security Chief Olivia Bates. "Remember," Peter said quietly, "this is a medical delegation, not a military one." The alien shuttle's door slid open with a soft hiss. 3 tall figures emerged. The Vorathi stood nearly 7 feet tall, with gray-blue skin that seemed to shimmer. They had 4 arms and large dark eyes that blinked sideways. They wore simple robes with strange symbols. The tallest Vorathi stepped forward. "I am Supreme Healer Krastal," it said through a small device on its chest. The voice sounded mechanical but understandable. "We come in peace." Peter bowed slightly. "I am Captain Nelson. This is our Chief Medical Officer, Dr. Wright, and our Security Chief, Bates." Krastal raised its upper set of hands, palms outward. "We regret the circumstances of our first meeting. Desperation drove us to actions we now see as incorrect." Abigail stepped forward. "We understand desperate measures when facing extinction. We want to help." The Vorathi delegation was escorted to the ship's conference room. The atmosphere was tense but hopeful. Lisa Martinez sat nearby with her translation equipment, making sure nothing was lost in communication. "Our species has been fighting this disease for 3 generations, Krastal explained. "Our medical ships were destroyed in a war with the Drakthar, another species from a nearby system. That's why you targeted our hospital ship," Peter said. "Yes, we detected your advanced medical equipment. We hope to borrow it." Krastal lowered all 4 arms in what seemed like shame. "We did not understand the harm we might cause." Abigail pulled up the analysis of the Vorathi sample on the main screen. "You're suffering from a genetic disorder that's attacking your cellular structure. We believe we can help, but we'll need more samples and information." Krastal's eyes widened. "You can treat this." "We can try," Abigail said. "Our approach to genetics is different from yours." The meeting continued for hours. Dr. Laura Bennett and Dr. Gregory Phillips, genetic specialists, joined them. The humans and Vorathi shared medical knowledge, finding common ground despite their differences. "We propose a collaborative effort," Abigail said finally. "Our teams working together." Krastal agreed. "As a show of trust, we offer technology to boost your ship's defenses. We know you are vulnerable." Outside the conference room, the crew had mixed reactions. Some welcomed the aliens with curiosity. Others kept their distance, still wary after the attack. Frank Torres refused to attend the meetings. Security Chief Bates met with Vesmar, the Vorathi security officer. They walked the corridors of the Mercy together. "Your ship is designed for healing," Vesmar observed. "No hidden weapons." "We don't need them," Olivia replied. "Until recently, the Red Cross symbol protected us." Vesmar made a sound like sighing. "Among our people, healers are sacred. I am ashamed we attacked you." Olivia stopped walking. "Why did your people turn to violence first? Why not just ask for help? The last time we revealed our weakness to another species, they tried to finish us off," Vesmar explained. "The Drakthar saw our disease as an opportunity. In the medical lab, the human team worked alongside Vorathi healers. Despite language barriers, they found ways to communicate through medicine, a universal language of its own. Their genetic structure is fascinating," Laura told Abigail. "Complex but elegant." Abigail nodded. "And their approach to cellular regeneration is something we've never considered." As the work progressed, Lisa Martinez rushed into the lab. Her face was pale. "Dr. Wright, Captain Nelson needs you on the bridge immediately." Abigail hurried to the bridge. On the main screen was a fleet of Vorathi ships. But these were different, with red lights instead of blue. "What's happening?" she asked. Krastel stood with Peter, looking worried. "Those are ships loyal to war leader Dravkor. He believes working with humans shows weakness. He wants to take your ship by force." "Your own people are attacking you?" Peter asked, shocked. "Our society is divided," Krastel explained. "Some believe we must take what we need to survive, no matter the cost. We need more time," Abigail said. "We're close to a breakthrough." Peter turned to tactical. "Shield status." "The Vorathi upgrades are installed. Shields at 150% normal capacity. It may not be enough," Krastel warned. "Dravkor commands many ships." The dissident Vorathi fleet moved closer, weapons charging. The fragile peace was about to be tested by fire. The first shots lit up the dark space around the moon. Blue energy beams from Krastel's ships met red ones from the attacking fleet. The USNS Mercy shook as a stray shot hit its shields. "Shield status," Captain Peter Nelson called out. "Holding at 80%, the tactical officer reported. The Vorathi upgrades are working." On the bridge, Supreme Healer Krastal watched with sad eyes. "War leader Dravkor will not stop. He believes taking your ship is the only way to save our people." Peter studied the tactical display. 5 ships protected the Mercy, while 8 enemy vessels advanced. The odds were not good. "We need more time," Peter said. "Dr. Wright needs more time for the cure." In the medical lab, Abigail and her team worked frantically. The Vorathi healers helped, their 4 hands moving quickly among the equipment. "We're close," Abigail said as the ship shook again. "The gene therapy is almost ready for testing." Laura Bennett looked up from her microscope. "This sequence is still unstable. If we rush this, it could make the disease worse." Another blast rocked the ship. The lights flickered. "We may not have a choice," Abigail replied. Engineer Matthew Clark rushed into the medical lab. "Doctor, we have a problem. The reactor took a hit. We're losing power." "How long do we have?" Abigail asked. "Maybe 2 hours before critical systems fail," Matthew said, "including life support." Abigail looked at the genetic samples. "We need more power for the gene sequencer. Without it, we can't complete the cure." Matthew thought for a moment. "I have an idea. The Vorathi ships use biological technology. Maybe we can adapt some of their systems to power our equipment." Abigail nodded. "Talk to Krastal. Make it happen." On the lower decks, Security Chief Olivia Bates directed the defense. She and Vesmar had turned the medical bay into a safe zone for patients. "If they board us, they'll come through the shuttle bay," Olivia said. "We need to secure that area." Vesmar agreed. My warriors will help. We can slow them down. Another blast hit the ship, harder this time. The Mercy groaned like a wounded animal. Shields at 40%. The tactical officer reported on the bridge. We can't take much more. Peter had never commanded in battle before. He was a hospital ship captain, not a warship commander. But now he had no choice. Evasive pattern Delta, he ordered. Keep us between Krastel's ships and the moon. Lisa Martinez worked at her communications station. Captain, I'm picking up transmissions from the enemy fleet. They're coordinating for a final push. Peter turned to Krastel. Is there any way to reason with Draft Corps? Only with strength, Krastel replied, or a cure. In engineering, Matthew Clark worked with Vorathi technicians. They connected strange, pulsing tubes to the ship's power system. This should give us enough energy, Matthew explained to Abigail over the comm. But it's not stable. Use it fast. In the lab, the gene sequencer hummed back to life. The cure was processing. 10 minutes. Abigail told the captain. We need 10 more minutes. We might not have 10 minutes, Peter replied as another blast rocked the ship. Communications officer Lisa Martinez suddenly straightened in her chair. Captain, I have an idea. If the cure works, can we broadcast the formula to all Vorathi ships? Theoretically, Abigail replied over the comm. Why? If every ship receives the cure at once, they'll have no reason to fight, Lisa explained. Peter nodded. Do it. Prepare to broadcast on all Vorathi frequencies. The battle intensified. One of Krastel's ships exploded in a blue fireball. The Mercy's shields were failing. Enemy boarding craft approaching. The tactical officer reported. They'll breach in 2 minutes. In the lab, Abigail watched the final sequence complete. The cure was ready. We've got it, she announced. The gene therapy is stable. It should halt the progression of their disease. Send it to communications, Peter ordered. Lisa, broadcast it now. Lisa's fingers flew over her console, broadcasting on all frequencies. The formula for the cure streamed out from the Mercy to every Vorathi ship. Medical data, genetic sequences, treatment protocols, everything they needed to save their species. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, one by one, the enemy ships stopped firing. They've received it, Krastel said, his voice filled with hope. They're analyzing it now. Peter held his breath, watching the tactical display. The boarding craft had stopped moving. War Leader Dravkor is hailing us, Lisa reported. On screen, Peter ordered. A fierce Vorathi face appeared. Dravkor was darker than Krastel, with scars across his features. Is this cure real? He demanded. Or a human trick? Abigail joined Peter on the bridge. It's real. We've tested it on samples. It works. Dravkor was silent for a long moment. Then he spoke again. We will verify. If you speak truth, the attack ends. The screen went dark. The bridge crew waited in tense silence. Then Lisa looked up from her console. The enemy ships are pulling back. Peter exhaled slowly. They had won, not with weapons, but with healing. But their victory was bitter. The Mercy was badly damaged. Systems were failing throughout the ship. Reactor status critical, Matthew reported from engineering. We don't have much time. 6 months later, the USNS Mercy looked very different. Its white hull now had blue-gray sections where Vorathi technology had been integrated. Inside, humans and Vorathi worked side by side. The ship floated in space near a massive Vorathi medical station. Captain Peter Nelson stood at the viewport in his quarters. He watched shuttles moving between the Mercy and the station. Each carried supplies and personnel for the joint medical mission. Captain, you have visitors, the computer announced. The door slid open. Dr. Abigail Wright entered with Supreme Healer Krastal. The last batch of the cure is ready, Abigail said. We'll start distribution to the outer colonies tomorrow. Peter smiled. How many Vorathi have been treated so far? Over 6 million, Krastal replied. The disease has been stopped in all major population centers. Peter remembered how close they had come to disaster. After the battle, the Mercy's reactor had been minutes from complete failure. Vorathi engineers had worked alongside Matthew Clark to stabilize it using their biological technology. They had saved the ship, just as the human doctors had saved their species. Earth Command is still not happy about all this, Peter said, gesturing to the Vorathi technology. The message we received yesterday was very clear about that. But they're not ordering us to stop, Abigail pointed out. When communication with Earth had finally been reestablished, the initial orders had been to withdraw immediately. But Captain Nelson had explained the alliance and sent proof of the medical breakthroughs they had achieved. After weeks of debate, Earth Command had reluctantly approved the joint initiative. They recognized the benefits, Peter agreed. The medical technology we're gaining is beyond anything we had before. And your methods have saved my people, Krastal added. This partnership benefits both our species. The ship's intercom activated, Captain to the medical bay. The new patients have arrived. In the medical bay, humans and Vorathi moved efficiently between beds. The large room had been expanded using Vorathi architectural techniques. It now held 3 times as many patients. Nurse John Simmons directed the newcomers. Radiation victims to Section 3. Surgical cases to Section 2. The new patients were miners from a human colony. An accident had exposed them to dangerous radiation. 6 months ago, the Mercy couldn't have helped them all. Now, with Vorathi regenerative technology, they would all recover. Engineer Matthew Clark met Peter in the corridor. The new propulsion system is online, Captain. We've increased efficiency by 40%. Good work, Peter said. How's the reactor integration coming? Better than expected. Engineer Torlak has some amazing ideas about energy distribution. Throughout the ship, similar collaborations were taking place. Security Chief Olivia Bates trained with Vesmar, combining human tactics with Vorathi strategies. Communications Officer Lisa Martinez worked with Vorathi linguists to improve the universal translator. In the ship's large conference room, Dr. Frank Torres, once opposed to helping the Vorathi, now led a joint ethics committee. His initial mistrust had given way to cautious respect after seeing the Vorathi's commitment to healing. The next mission will take us to the Cygnus sector, Peter told his senior staff during their daily meeting. Both human and Vorathi colonies there need medical assistance. The new hospital ships will join us there, Abigail added. The first 3 are ready for their maiden voyage. These new vessels were unlike anything either species had built before. They combined human medical practices with Vorathi biological technology. They were designed not just to treat the sick, but to adapt to new diseases and conditions. Later that evening, Dr. Abigail Wright found herself on the observation deck. The stars stretched out before her, countless worlds waiting for help. Supreme Healer Krastal joined her. Your people have a saying, Krastal said. That good can come from bad events. A silver lining. Abigail nodded. And it's true. Without the attack, our species might never have met, or we might have met in war. Instead, we met through medicine, Krastal replied. Through healing. Below them, the Mercy's engines glowed softly. The ship that had once flowed in fear now moved forward with purpose. Its mission remained the same: to heal, to help, to save lives. But now that mission extended to all species who needed aid. Captain Peter Nelson gave the order, and the Mercy jumped to light speed, leading a fleet of hospital ships into the stars. Human and Vorathi, once enemies, now worked together to bring healing to the galaxy.